Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about backend developers and front-end, so let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, what keeps backend developers from calling themselves full-stack developers? Don't most of them know how to use some of the front-end techniques? Well, yes, they do, but that's probably a little bit of marketing as well, because if you say that you are a full-stack developer, you might have to do front end, and no backend developer wants to do that. That's why you call yourself a backend developer, so you don't have to. It's the biggest conspiracy theory that I know of to date. The backend developers were fed up with having to deal with JavaScript, and since back in the day you really had to have forced them to use things like jQuery to do the UI as well. They invented, they lobbied and invented the front end developers so that they could just fork all of that stuff over to some other poor motherfucker who's going to have to deal with all of the horrible front end code that they wrote they don't want to touch anymore, so they can stay in their nice clean back end code. It's a true story. You heard it here first, and now you can go and make a conspiracy video about it. I promise you, you will find the proof. The proof is out there. Anywho, I will tell you something that usually I say to the front-end developers who like to tell me that, oh, Frederick, when you say that npm and Node.js is relevant for a front-end developer, you clearly don't know what you're talking about, because if I mean that's back-end work, and I go, no, it's actually not. It's good hygiene, and whenever you're practically using any of your favorite tools within front-end development, you are leveraging these technologies. And knowing how to build a basic REST API to serve up your website so that it actually is usable to someone, or getting some basic data, is not going to make you a full stack developer. It's not going to make you a backend developer, because that's like saying that if I put a single drop of water in your water glass, that I have filled up your glass. It's a monumental difference between knowing that and knowing all the things that makes you a backend developer. And the backend developers know that too. They understand that for you to be a full stack developer, there is a subjective, let's be honest here, there's no like exact list, but there is a sphere of things that you should have a fairly high level of mastery of in order to be able to call you the thing that you're calling yourself. Because otherwise you might as well make these arbitrary claims. An example would be, when does someone become an author? Well, to the vast majority of us, you're going to have to at least publish a book to be an author. But I could claim that I'm an author because I wrote my grocery list. It's writing, right? Same thing here. Just because you know how to use some basic CSS and some basic HTML, that does not make you a front-end developer, because the requirements on a front-end developer is a lot higher than that. And the same thing goes for being a full-stack developer. If you're going to claim that you're a full-stack developer, then you should be able to deal with the work, the normal, at the very least, work of a back-end developer and a front-end developer. That doesn't necessarily mean that you know everything and that you're as good as both of them at whatever they're doing. It just means that they should be able to trust that if they give you a piece of work that they usually do, that you can deliver. That's what it means. And if you take a normal standard front-end task today, which involves a lot of SPA frameworks and a lot more complicated things than just some basic JavaScript and HTML and CSS, the average backend developer will most likely feel like, I don't really know how Vue works or React or Angular or stuff like that. I don't really know that. So they don't feel comfortable saying that they're full stack developers, and I think that that's very accurate, because that is a normal work task for a front-end developer. Flip the whole thing and say, well, if you give a front-end developer a standard normal task, such as declaring a set of new models with a bunch of new services, so we're adding say indexes to a database to perform for some domain model, or maybe a bit of access validation or things like that. Well, if you don't know what these things are, these are very normal things for a lot of backend developers, then you can't do their job. This is fairly normal stuff. They do that practically every day, and that means that they have earned the right to call themselves the thing that they are calling themselves. And this goes for everybody. If you're going to call yourself anything, you should have a rough idea at the very least, uh, like about-ish what the normal standard stuff that someone of that role is doing, and be able to roughly do the same thing. You don't have to be the best person who at it, or the person who knows it all. You just need to be good enough at the thing so that someone who also does that thing can trust that, yeah, I can trust this person to know what they're doing. That's pretty much all there is to it. So what I want you to take away from this is that just because you know some CSS and HTML, that does not make you a front-end developer. And by extension, if you're a back-end developer who knows that, that does not make you a full-stack developer. If and the flips and the reverse is also true. Just because you know some basics about REST and knowing how to like add some basic stuff to a database, that does not make you a backend developer. And if you're supposed to call yourself a full stack developer, at the very least loose contract between all of us is that you should roughly know how to do the work of both roles. That doesn't mean that you're the best at it. It just means that I can trust that you can do the thing that I normally do, depending on what role I have. Same thing goes between the backend developers. You're not going to be. I'm not going. Nobody's going to let you call yourself a professional software developer, a backend developer, or a front-end developer, whatever, if you can't be trusted to do the normal daily job of the person who actually has that title. We all agree on roughly what the sphere or the range of things you need to know is, and that moves all the time. It's not a static thing, and that's where keeping yourself relevant and all that stuff comes in. It's the same thing for every single profession out there. You will not be allowed by people who have earned a title to call yourself something unless you can roughly do the thing that they are doing. Have a great day.